20th of February, that is the date given as the last chance to register for tertiary education for the year 2023. In a briefing yesterday, the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Blade Nzimande, presented the state of readiness for the post-school education and training sector for this academic year. 208,299. That was the other figure he gave. This is the number of spaces available nationally for new students to be enrolled for their first year of study. The sector faces several challenges, load shedding like all of us, but also gender-based violence. We've also seen, of course, attacks against the Vice-Chancellor of Fort Hare and instability in the leadership of several institutions. Well, the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Dr. Blade Nzimande, joins us now on the line for more on this. A pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning, Bongani, to you and your listeners. Thanks for giving me this opportunity.
One of the things that struck me about your briefing yesterday was this issue of supply and demand. There's simply not enough space for all those who want it in terms of higher education, is there?
Yes, that's one of the biggest challenges that we are facing, Bongani. I want to admit that. We have indeed expanded access quite significantly as this government since 1994, including now having built 2 new universities and also expanded the TVET college sector. But the demand is far outstripping the capacity of government, including fiscal resources, to be able to actually expand the system. The system grew much faster because after 1994, we really opened the doors of learning for as many South Africans as possible. So this does indeed remain a challenge. And one of the things that we have consistently been saying, for instance, is that we need to be growing the technical, vocational education and training sector much, much faster than the university sector, because it's very clear there is no country that I'm aware of that would rely on providing more university graduates than your mid-level skills that we need, especially in the light of the high levels of youth unemployment that we have.
I mean, you make a good point. We'll take an institution like Wits University, for example, right? They've got space for only 6,000 first years, but they've received in excess of 100,000 applications. You talk about TVET colleges and vocational training. And I wonder if it's not just, obviously we need to provide a system to set it up, right? But also a culture change in terms of what we want to encourage young people to do in terms of the opportunities that are available. So vocational training, but also apprenticeships and trainings outside of the formal sector. How do we make that switch in our minds?
Yes, thanks, Bomani. But let me just clarify, by the way, this one thing of applications vis-a-vis the number. You quote Wits, they get 100,000 applications, but they only have 6,000. I think that comparison is not quite correct, because a lot of the students who apply, they don't make it. So the better comparison is to say how many students have actually acquired from matric university entrance or a bachelor or a diploma entrance, as opposed to the spaces that are there. The gap is still there, but it's not as big. And also students apply to many institutions at the same time. So it's not a reliable measure if you really want to know what the shortage is. The shortage is still big, but it's much smaller than just application. But we are raising an important matter of culture change. I think that we have actually gone a long way now to get society to begin to accept TVET college education as important. We are not yet there, but it's a sea change from what was there before. For instance, we established the Department of Higher Education and Training in 2009. As I'm talking to you now, the TVET colleges are full. You know, we're going to be taking about this year we're going to be having about 550,000 in total, not just the first-time entrants. And they are full to the brim. There is more demand. We are also been building new campuses, you know, in a number of places, by the way. I think that over the last 6-7 years, we've been in the process of building about 12 or 13 new campuses. We are also building skill centers that are linked to the TVET colleges. That has made some difference, but it's still not enough. I can tell you, Bongani, just about every mayor in the country phones me. Nzimande, we need a TVET college here, because once our students finish, they don't know where to go to, especially also if they are not taken to the university. So this is an issue and one of the things that will make this to improve, which we are beginning to change, is, for instance, to ensure that TVET college students get the workplace experience or placement in the workplace, so that they are able to complete formally the practical side of training, and they tend to get, our estimate is that those who get such placement, more than 70%, end up being employed, or some of them are able to start their own initiatives, because the demand for artisans, the one that we are talking about, is very big in our country. We've been given a task to produce 30,000 artisans by 2030. We are already at 22,000. We think that we are going to meet that target, and we also must actually go beyond it, because think about it very quickly. Do you know that an average plumber in Johannesburg earns more than a medical practitioner?
I can believe it. I've hired this. I've needed their services of late. I can completely believe it.
Yes, so that is why then we're also saying we need a change, but that change will be seen if we are able to get partnerships with employers, which is one of my priorities, so that there is seamless transition from learning to working.
Many desperate families, of course, continue to be duped by bogus colleges. So even as we talk about this culture change, people don't always necessarily know where to go.
Yes, that is why we've taken this campaign, and it's been paying off, because if you notice, since 2009, there has been quite a significant reduction of the bogus colleges, because we have done a number of things. Each year, we go and identify these, working together with the police, and close them down. But also we have on our website the list of all accredited colleges. And that's why we urge parents to go to our website at DHET, so that they are able to check if a particular college is indeed registered or not. So it's very important then that actually gets done. Some of the colleges, have been doing something that, for instance, is very bad. Well, all bogus colleges are bad. Let's say Mohani Bingwa runs a training center and is accredited to offer 3 programs, electricity and maybe welding. But because you have got a registration, then you start also offering bricklaying, which we are not registered for. But you use the fact that you are registered for some programs, so that when you get into the college, you check it, it is registered. But if you don't look closely what it is registered for, you then get colleges registering for 1 or 2 programs, but offer 6 or 7 programs, which they are not entitled to. But we are looking into that. We are working hard at trying to do that. But also we urge our parents and our prospective students to please make sure that they check that these colleges are not bogus colleges.
One of the things you mentioned in your briefing was around the registration fees, particularly for those who have applied for NSFAS funding.
Yes, NSFAS funded students do not have to pay any upfront payment whatsoever, whether it's registration fee or any other, because we guarantee that we are actually going to pay. And Mohani, let me tell you, by the way, we're paying registration, we're paying tuition, we are actually paying for food, we are paying for accommodation, we are paying a book allowance, and we are paying a monthly living allowance. By the way, there's no developing country that does this in the whole world, I can tell you, with the exception of Cuba, for instance. And even developed countries that talk about having free higher education, if you listen to Germany, they only pay for tuition. They don't pay for accommodation. They don't pay for food. Students see for themselves what they do. So this actually is also being recognized by many other countries and many international platforms that I go to when I talk about NSFAS. People really envy this and say, we wish many more countries that are developing could be able to do this, because we've opened doors to students who come from families where there was never anyone who had seen a door of a college or a university. But today they are graduates wearing those wonderful black gowns, Bomani, as you see them proudly graduating, because of the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. This is one of the most significant achievements of this government in terms of taking children from nowhere and actually turning them into something. As our founding president Nelson Mandela said, education is the only thing that can make the child of a president to actually become a president. So NSFAS, that's what it is actually doing.
Minister, we started this year with, of course, the terrible news that came out of Alice in the Eastern Cape, the terrible murder of Mboneli Vesele, who was the bodyguard to the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Sakhele Buhlungu. Where are we on that matter, but broadly, or more specifically, I suppose, all of the alleged corruption that has been uncovered at that institution?
I went to Fort Hare personally twice, by the way. Firstly, to meet with the stakeholders. I met with council, I met with the unions, and I met with the SRC. Just to express our condolences. We also visited the Vesele family to express our own condolences about what happened. We had very fruitful discussions, I must say, with those stakeholders, because we already identified a number of things that needs to be done. For instance, the issue of safety and security in our campuses is a national challenge. It's not just Fort Hare. We have got some vice-chancellors, other vice-chancellors, and college principals who have got heavily armed bodyguards because their lives are under threat, often from people who actually want to squander or steal the resources. I have agreed with Fort Hare that I'm going to be going back there within the next 2 to 3 weeks because council said to me they still want to then come back and discuss this matter properly.
Have you spoken to Professor Buhlungu?
Pardon?
Have you spoken to Professor Buhlungu?
Yes, I did speak to Professor Buhlungu the day after this thing happened. Mr. Vesele was killed on a Friday, and I spoke to Professor Buhlungu on Saturday morning, to express my condolences and my outrage, at this kind of violence that is visited upon Fort Hare. And actually, I showed him of our support as government and as the department, and we are still committed to actually work with everyone at that university in order to be able to try and eliminate these kinds of problems that we have. These are places for learning, not places where really we should be collecting dead bodies. That is just not correct. So on my side, I am willing to do that. What we found, though, at Fort Hare, which was of concern, was that much as there is this fight against corruption, but many stakeholders say they are not aware. They are not being briefed. They are not being taken on board on what is happening. They hear that there is a special investigating unit on campus, but they don't have an idea, not the details, but an idea of what it is doing. And one lesson out of that I've raised with council and going back is that fighting against corruption is not a loner struggle, man. You have to ensure that you involve all the stakeholders. In fact, in my discussion with the unions and the SRC, we came to an agreement on a very important matter that can be copied throughout the sectors, all of them, to basically say our institutional forums must work at our institutions and involve all stakeholders. If communities are building community policing forums, we do need to build such structures in our campuses. These campuses are communities, woman. You know that the Alice campus of Fort Hare has 11,000 students. Just that campus alone. That's a whole community that. So you need to get together to fight against gender-based violence and to fight against all forms of crime. And that must be inserted and incorporated into the work of the SRC, into shop steward meetings and structures of the unions and so on, which was a very good thing.
Dr. Nzimande, I think we'll have to leave it there. I can appreciate that you and I will need to chat some more as the year progresses. We wish you success for the academic year of 2023. I take your point about the involvement of all stakeholders, except perhaps to say that there may be challenges where some of those stakeholders may themselves be under investigation. But I do take the point that it isn't a lone man or one person job. But you and I hopefully will have more conversations throughout this year. Best of luck.
Thank you very much, Bongani. I'm available if you need me. Thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Blade Nzimande there, the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation.
Current events, Developing stories.
Tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.